She is one of Combs' many accusers, testifying as a central witness.
Is she ready?
Very ready and confident. Thank you.
Among other things, the singer is expected to address the 2016 video of Combs attacking her in a hotel when she was his girlfriend.
For the first time during the trial, all three of Diddy's daughters showed up together to support their father. But not even an hour had passed before they stood up, hugged each other tightly, and walked out of the courtroom in tears. So what on earth did that video reveal? Something so disturbing that even Diddy's own daughters couldn't handle watching it.
When she walked in there, Rachel, she had on a brown dress, form-fitting, visibly pregnant, head held high, and did not make any eye contact with the defendant, with Sean Combs. She said that Sean Combs directed everything from what she had on, to the lighting in the room, to how she was supposed to interact with the person that she was having sex with. And again, just to reiterate what is a freak-off, the freak-off essentially was something that Cassie said she learned about through Sean Combs about a year into their relationship. He described it as voyeurism, wanting to watch her have sex with someone else. And she said that she did it because she...
Before the trial even officially started in Manhattan federal court, a major shock hit the room. Cassie brought forward a never-before-seen video, reportedly capturing explosive footage from a notorious freak-off, and prosecutors claimed it held the key to everything. They called it crucial evidence, exposing a tangled web of allegations against Diddy and dark secrets that might even touch his own family. Once the tape was admitted into evidence, the mood shifted instantly. The Combs family exchanged tense looks, as if they knew they were about to witness something they could never unsee. Just moments into the video, Delilah suddenly reached out and covered her twin sister Jessie's eyes. Meanwhile, Chance and Justin sat frozen, locked on the screen, until the face of a woman they knew appeared. Was it Kim Porter?
Among other things, the singer is expected to address the 2016 video of Combs attacking her in a hotel when she was his girlfriend. Combs has pleaded not guilty. His attorneys argue the video is evidence of jealousy, not sex trafficking. And now for the first time, jurors are hearing what Cassie has to say about that and other aspects of their 10-year relationship.
A ripple of whispers swept through the courtroom, growing louder with each second as the footage played. Then, without saying a single word, all three daughters stood and quietly walked out. The silence they left behind was deafening. What exactly did that video expose? And why did they flee during their very first visit to support Diddy?
And at some point in time, she actually had said that she looked forward to the freak-offs. Why did Cassie express looking forward to these said freak-offs?
When the prosecution asked her, was there ever a time that you enjoyed the freak-offs? This is when Cassie got choked up and she said, I did, but only because I got to spend one-on-one time with Combs, and I really did love him.
And that is speaking to the psychological abuse, in addition to the physical abuse that she potentially experienced.
Yeah, she's definitely laying out someone who was young, who was influenced by wanting to have this record career. She signed a 10-album deal with Bad Boy Entertainment, led by Sean Combs, and basically describes being enamored by Sean Combs, loving him, not knowing about certain things sexually, and him sort of telling her, teaching her about that. And what you hear is someone that was young and she even said, you know, I was young, I was naive, I didn't know any better. But she's really telling the story of someone who thought she was going to be with someone in this music industry that was going to help her career, that cared about her, but quickly learned after the freak-offs that wasn't the case. And what I thought was also interesting is she said that after that first freak-off, she said she felt dirty. She didn't want to do it. And when she brought up the idea of having a conversation about the freak-offs in an email, which the jurors saw, she said she backpedaled in the email because Combs responded by saying, I know, you don't want to do it. And she said, oh no, well, it's not that. But that was the beginning. That was in 2010, where she brings up in an email that she wanted to have a conversation about this. And in her words, she didn't want to do it, but she felt like she had to do it.
Well, Diane, prosecutors have wasted no time getting right into the alleged abuse that Cassie Ventura says she endured for years. Ventura telling jurors, quote, he would bash my head, knock me over, drag me, kick me, stomp me in the head when I was down. She also got into the nature of those so-called freak-offs, saying that they involved hiring an escort and they performed under the direction of Combs, saying that they happened so frequently it eventually became a job for her to set them up. Ventura said she did not feel she had much of a choice but to participate, that she feared that Combs would retaliate or potentially blackmail her if she did not. And she's had at times to take, she's taken deep breaths, pausing her testimony. Combs appearing to be listening pretty passively with his hands in his lap at the defense table there.
Prosecutor Rachel Harper stood up with calm authority, her silver hair pulled back tight, thin-framed glasses resting perfectly on her nose. Though soft-spoken, her voice cut through the courtroom like a drumbeat signaling something huge was about to unfold. Fixing her sharp gaze on Cassie, she began, "Miss Turcher, please describe to the court what has been referred to as the freak off and your role in those events." The room felt frozen in time, as if everyone had stopped breathing at once. Cassie inhaled deeply, her eyes scanning the room before briefly locking with Alex, who sat just feet away. His steady gaze seemed to ground her, offering silent support. She pressed her lips together, gathering her strength, then finally spoke. Her voice was low, but every word rang with conviction, like each sentence had been rehearsed in her mind 100 times.
Cassie's relationship with Diddy. Some of those details we've seen in prior lawsuits, but to hear her on the stand actually giving those details, reliving those moments herself. Also, you have to remember, she's very pregnant right now. So I'm gonna be curious to see how long she makes it on the stand, how she's emotionally able to weather all of these questions. And what's going to be interesting to watch is, you know, the defense from the very start in their opening statement said that she chose to be there. So I'm going to be curious to see how she responds to questions about, was this her choice or did she feel like she had to do all of these things?
I think what made Cassie emotional is having to describe the details of the freak off and why she did it. When she talked about wanting to do it to please Sean Combs, that's when she broke down. Up until that point, she had just been answering the questions. She's a little soft-spoken at times, but that's when she got emotional. When she had to answer the question about if she enjoyed it, that's when she broke down, because she said, "I enjoyed being with Sean Combs." And she says, "I did it because it made him happy."
What did the expressions of the jurors look like?
The jurors are laser focused on what Cassie has to say. And that's to be expected, right? Because she is the person who will likely be on the stand, according to attorneys, for 2, maybe 3 days. She's the one that was in the relationship with Sean Combs for over 10 years. So she's got a lot to say, and she's just getting started.
Just how important is Cassie's testimony to the prosecution?
I think it really connects the dots, Rachel. When you look at that initial indictment and what's being alleged, she really is the person that has probably the most information about this idea that the prosecution says, which is creating a criminal enterprise for Sean Combs' sexual desires. Something else that the jurors saw today that sort of connects it back to this alleged criminal enterprise are 7 photos of people that were very close to Sean Combs, one even his former chief of staff. And these were all people that Cassie Ventura was able to name and explain the functions in terms of what they did: security, driver, chief of staff, someone that handled financials. So it's showing that she knew some of these people, again, because she was with him, around him for so long.
She paused for a moment, letting her eyes move slowly across the faces of the jury, almost as if she wanted to make sure they truly understood the weight of what she was about to say. About a year after we started dating, she began, he introduced me to something he called the freak off. He claimed it was just a way to relax, to try new things. But for me, it felt like a nightmare I could never wake up from.
I think what the defense is going to say is that this wasn't blackmail, this was not coercion, this was consensual. We know that Cassie started out with Sean Combs as an early person, with someone who is trying to get her career started, and he was going to help her. That's what the defense is going to say, that she was starting out and wanted someone to support her. They did their first record deal together. That's something I think the defense is going to focus on, and had it not been for Sean Combs, she wouldn't be where she is right now. The prosecution obviously is saying he was in control. It may have started out as a consensual, it may have started out with her being excited about seeing him, but ultimately unfortunately, he took control of that relationship. He took control of her career. This is their key witness, and she's on that stand trying to explain all of the charges that the prosecution wants to hit home with that jury.
No, there was a moment early on when Cassie mentioned Dallas Austin, who she called a friend who's a producer. So I don't know if that's someone that we're going to hear from. We know that there were pictures shown to prospective jurors that are well-known celebrities, you know, Kanye West, Kid Cudi, Lauren London. We don't know, though, how they fit yet into why they were even asked, do you know these people? Are you familiar with them?
So the prosecution is questioning Cassie right now, still questioning her.
The defense hasn't even got a chance to, I mean, that might change based on the timing, but, you know, because she's such a key witness, it's likely that she will be on that stand the rest of the day. We learned that Cassie referred to him as Pop Pop, and Sean Combs would refer to her as CC. The prosecution says, what does CC stand for? She said Cassie Combs.
What kind of witness is Cassie coming off as to the jurors?
I think naturally when you look at her visually, people see that she's pregnant and looking like she's due any day now. So they might, you know, have empathy, sympathy for her in that way, but we don't really know. We know that they've been instructed to be fair and impartial. As to what type of witness she's coming off as, she's describing someone that she was, someone she said that was trying to figure out who she was at that time, who she was allowed to be. Now you're looking at somebody that's almost 40 years old, totally different person, but even in describing what was going on at her at that time, taking drugs, trying to please Sean Combs, she's really just sort of laying out the case for her not having a lot of control. So I think that's the takeaway. This is someone who is making it very clear that at that particular time in her life, she says she did not have any control really over what she wore, what she did, who she was having sex with. She's a different person now, but I think when she talks about those details and even reflecting on them for herself, as we saw today, she broke down in that courtroom.
Cassie described the so-called freak-offs as carefully choreographed events, every detail controlled by Diddy himself. He called it voyeurism, she said, her voice trembling as painful memories came flooding back. He liked watching me with other people, but it didn't stop there. According to Cassie, Diddy dictated everything, what she wore, how the lighting in the room was set, what acts took place, even how much baby oil they had to use so their skin would shine just the way he liked it. She explained that he made her shop at specific specialty stores for skimpy outfits, and he alone decided which ones she had to wear. I had no say, she told the jury, her eyes locked onto them, her voice gaining strength. If I refused, he'd threaten me. Each word landed heavy. She described feeling completely cornered, as if there was no escape.
Combs suggested hiring an escort to have sex with her while he watched. My stomach churned, Ventura said. I was confused, nervous, but also loved him very much and wanted to make him happy.
Cassie made it clear, these so-called freak-offs weren't just short encounters. They could last anywhere from 36 to 72 hours, sometimes even longer. One time, a freak-off stretched to 4 full days, she revealed, her voice shaking as she described the physical and mental exhaustion she and the others endured. They happened weekly, like a required part of my life, she said. Cassie also revealed how she was forced into helping organize these disturbing events. I had to find people through platforms like Craigslist or professional services, she confessed, her eyes lowering in visible shame. She explained how she arranged travel for the participants to cities like Miami, Ibiza, New York, Louisiana, and Las Vegas. Working alongside Diddy's team, she said they posed as recruiters. But in reality, everything followed a blueprint he had already created. Cassie said Diddy didn't just control who was there, he controlled everything about the space itself. He directed the lighting in the room, she recalled. At first, it was candles to make it feel romantic. But later, he switched to full stage lights like we were actors in a film, and he was the only director. She described how Diddy choreographed each detail, from how people moved to the exact acts he demanded to see. And then came the substances. He even demanded we use drugs to feel more comfortable, she said, her voice cracking. I remember once, before a freak-off, I had to text him and ask, which pill should I take from your bag? And he replied, telling me exactly which one. The tension in the courtroom peaked when Cassie's attorney, Samantha Klein, her brown hair pulled back in a sleek style, eyes sharp and unblinking, rose from her seat and made a bold request. Your Honor, Klein said firmly, her voice ringing out with precision, we ask permission to submit video evidence of a freak-off from 2018, labeled as the White Party Archive. A wave of silence swept through the room as everyone turned toward the massive screen in the corner. Anticipation thick in the air, The screen flickered to life. The first image, a stunning seaside mansion, palm trees gently swaying under the night sky, while neon lights pulsed to the beat of loud electronic music. Laughter echoed in the background, mixing with a blur of voices and movement. The footage revealed the infamous white parties, extravagant events hosted by Diddy, where celebrities, wealthy entrepreneurs, and high-end models gathered to indulge in a world of excess and spectacle. But what appeared on the screen wasn't glamour. It was the shadowy truth behind those lavish events. The footage exposed a disturbing scene. Familiar faces surfaced: a businessman in a crisp white suit, a platinum-haired pop star, a model glittering in a metallic dress, all caught in compromising acts. From using illegal substances to engaging in behavior that crossed serious moral lines, the scene was shocking. The air in the video felt heavy, suffocating, like a place where rules didn't exist and only power and desire were in control. Cassie remained composed on the witness stand, but her pain showed beneath the surface. "I wasn't just a participant," she said, her voice steady but her eyes revealing deep hurt. "I was forced to handle everything, finding people, organizing their arrival, making sure they were at the right place at the right time." She admitted she operated entirely under Diddy's orders. "But I never wanted to," she continued. "I was terrified because if I said no, he threatened to release private footage of me." Cassie then dropped a chilling detail. Diddy had secretly recorded many of these freak-offs, storing the footage like a weapon. He said those videos were his insurance, she revealed, her voice cracking. "If I didn't do what he said, he'd release them, destroy my reputation, and my life." The courtroom seemed to stop breathing when the video shifted to a new, haunting scene. On the screen sat a woman on a couch, her eyes distant and unfocused, completely unaware she was being filmed. Her face came into view with heartbreaking clarity. It was Kim Porter, the late mother of Delilah and Jesse. A gasp escaped from the front row. Chance covered her mouth with both hands, her fingers shaking uncontrollably. The twins, Delilah and Jesse, who had held themselves together until now, were frozen in place. Their skin had gone pale, and Delilah gripped her sister's hand so tightly her nails pressed into Jessi's palm, as if trying to keep both of them from falling apart. Then their eyes shifted to Diddy, filled with panic, sorrow, and a betrayal too deep for words, before snapping back to the screen, locking onto their mother's ghostly image. Kim Porter, once a symbol of strength and elegance, peered hollow, lost, her expression blank, her body limp, like she had been pulled into something dark and unnatural. This wasn't just another clip. It felt like a silent accusation. A buried truth suddenly exposed, revealing the cruel machinery Diddy had built, where even Kim had become a victim of its grip. Kim Porter's appearance in the freak-off footage didn't just raise questions, it ignited something far more unsettling. What exactly was her involvement in these events? And more disturbingly, was her death in 2018, officially ruled as pneumonia, truly a tragic accident? Or was it something far more sinister, an attempt to silence her before she could reveal Diddy's darkest secrets? Suddenly, Diddy erupted. He slammed his hands against the table, the sound thunderous in the silent courtroom, his chair screeching as it tipped backward. "Stop the video now," he roared, his voice raw and his eyes burning red. "My children are here, you can't do this." But his rage was quickly swallowed by something far more devastating, Jessie's muffled sobs. They cut through the courtroom like glass shattering in slow motion. Chance, her eyes bloodshot, jumped up, grabbing both of her trembling sisters. She didn't hesitate, pulling Delilah and Jesse out of the room, tears streaking down all three of their faces. From the hallway, their cries echoed back like a mournful wail, shaking everyone in the chamber. One juror lowered their head, hand pressed to their mouth, their eyes filled with grief. In the back, a reporter leaned toward a colleague and whispered, "This isn't just a trial, this is a tragedy." In the cold, echoing hallway outside the courtroom, Delilah clung to Jesse like a lifeline, trying to hold together the pieces of pain that had just exploded around them. The image of their mother, Kim Porter, with that empty, unfamiliar stare, still haunted their minds. It had pierced through every cherished memory they held of her, the warmth of her hugs, the calm in her lullabies during stormy nights. Delilah tried to focus on the comforting past, but the present pain was too loud. Jessie, her eyes brimming with tears, leaned in and whispered, "Why was Mom there?" Her voice was barely audible, but the weight of her question was unbearable. No answer came, just silence and a gnawing fear that their father, the man who always swore they were his world, may have pulled their mother into something terrible. Could he have been responsible not just for the events in that footage, but for Kim's death itself? The thought was too painful to speak out loud. Back in the courtroom, Diddy's lead attorney, Victor Langston, rose with slow precision. Tall man with commanding presence, salt and pepper hair, and a voice that rumbled like distant thunder, he turned his gaze sharply toward Cassie. "You've painted a picture of yourself as a victim," he began, his tone cutting, "as if you had no agency in any of this." Langston didn't back down. "Let's look at the full picture," he said, his voice steady but piercing. "You signed a 10-album contract with Bad Boy Entertainment. You lived in luxury apartments, flew around the world, attended extravagant parties. Isn't it possible that you willingly took part in these so-called freak-offs to secure your place in Mr. Combs' world?" The question landed hard like a dart straight to the center of the courtroom. Cassie paused, visibly shaken for a moment. She inhaled deeply and turned her gaze toward Alex. Their eyes met, and in that brief moment, she seemed to gather herself. "No," Cassie answered, her voice sharper now, her stare unwavering. "I didn't choose this, I was coerced." She continued, her voice gaining power. "What I got wasn't a reward, it was the price I had to pay just to survive. He controlled everything, my career, my friendships, even my thoughts. I wasn't free to make choices. If I didn't do what he said, I would have lost it all." Her words echoed through the courtroom like a battle cry, and a few jurors shifted, nodding slightly, the weight of her testimony clearly hitting home. But Langston wasn't done. He leaned in slightly, lowering his tone as if setting a snare. "Miss Ventura, did you ever collaborate with others, say Miss Kim Porter, to help carry out these freak-offs at Mr. Combs' direction? Were you and Miss Porter willing participants, simply enjoying the lifestyle Mr. Combs provided?" Langston asked. The words sent a chill through the room. Just hearing Kim Porter's name, especially in this context, felt like reopening a wound the Combs family was barely managing to hide. Cassie's eyes welled, but her resolve didn't break. She shook her head, the pain evident in every flicker of emotion on her face. "No," she said, voice trembling but unshaken. "Kim was trapped just like me. We weren't partners in this, we were victims of the same system," she continued. "He made us believe there was no way out, that everything we had, our careers, our families, our reputations, depended on keeping him happy." Her words didn't just fill the room, they carved through it like a knife. Though Diddy stayed seated, the tension in his body betrayed his discomfort. One finger tapped anxiously on the table. His gaze darted toward the empty row of seats where his daughters had been, searching, maybe, for some trace of comfort. But there was nothing there. The impact of that video, showing Kim Porter in such a haunting, vacant state, combined with Cassie's searing testimony, was more than just a public relations blow. It was personal. It struck at the very center of his identity, his daughters. Chance, Delilah, and Jessie, girls he had so often called the core of his life, had just seen their mother as a shadow of herself, a ghost caught in the very world their father built. The girls' anguish, made painfully clear through their tearful cries and desperate dash out of the courtroom, only reinforced the crushing weight of the video's impact. But their timing didn't go unnoticed. Their appearance at the very moment that footage was revealed raised eyebrows across the public. Why would Kim Porter's daughters show up on that exact day, at that exact moment? The coincidence set off a firestorm of speculation. Was this timing accidental, or was it orchestrated to strike at Diddy's one true vulnerability, his fierce devotion to his daughters? While Delilah and Jessie left sobbing, shattered by what they'd seen, Chance and Justin remained behind, silent, composed, and staring directly at Diddy. They didn't move to comfort their sisters. They didn't flinch. Their steady gazes locked on their father sparked new questions. Do they still trust him? Or is their quiet stillness a mask for something deeper, a readiness to face the truth they've long suspected? For years, the Combs family was paraded by the media as an image of unity, especially after Kim Porter's death, which seemed to glue Diddy and his children even closer. But now, that picture has cracked. Chance and Justin's calm appearance at the trial didn't feel like support, it felt strategic. Their still, unreadable expressions suggested more than grief. Were they clinging to loyalty or hiding a calculated plan in plain sight? Chance, Diddy's daughter with Sarah Chapman, grew up on the quiet outskirts of a family marked by pain. Not being Kim Porter's child left her in the cold, without the warmth of shared memories or a mother's embrace to anchor her. When Kim passed away in 2018, her children held tightly to treasured moments, but Chance had only silence and solitude. Photos of Diddy showering Kim's children with affection filled the tabloids, and with each image, a quiet ache grew in Chance. She was present, but always just outside the frame. A silent figure in a family story that never fully included her. Justin, Diddy's eldest son with Missa Hilton, carried a different energy entirely. Where others buckled under emotion, he became a strategist, sharp, unshaken, and always calculating. While Chance battled loneliness, Justin sharpened himself into something else, a player in Diddy's inner circle of power. To him, the Combs family wasn't a sanctuary, it was a battlefield. And from a young age, Justin learned the rules: power must be earned, weakness must be hidden. He endured hushed scandals and brutal lessons, all swept under the rug by Diddy to preserve the family image. He didn't envy Kim's children for the love he never had. Instead, he studied. Diddy cherished his children, but he also tested them, especially Justin, through cryptic challenges and subtle rivalries. And Justin learned well. Beneath the polished smile was a man ready to flip the board if the game ever turned against him. Those hidden wounds didn't just harden Justin, they refined him into a strategist, always calculating, always waiting for the perfect moment to flip the board. So when Chance, Delilah, and Jesse walked into the courtroom, their timing sent shockwaves through the room. This wasn't accidental, it was precise. Whispers quickly spread. Diddy had reportedly forbidden any family members from attending the trial. He wanted to protect his image and, more importantly, shield his children from the darkest parts of his empire. But there they were, front row, beside Justin and Janice. Why now? Why on the exact day the most explosive footage would be revealed? Kim Porter's daughters, long seen as loyal and obedient, had suddenly gone against their father's wishes. And that defiance raised a chilling question. Had someone convinced them to come? Speculation ignited that Justin and Chance had set this plan in motion. Two children shaped by neglect and buried ambitions, now quietly turning the tide. Justin, always the observer, had long sensed Chance's quiet pain. He saw how deeply she felt her place on the fringes, and he knew that pain could be the spark. In the months before the trial, Justin didn't approach her with comfort, but with questions, whispered truths, seeded doubts. "Have you ever wondered who Dad really is?" he asked one day, his tone soft but sharp. Then came the stories of infamous white parties, of manipulation behind closed doors, of Kim Porter possibly trapped in a world far from the strength she once represented. Each word stirred something long buried in Chance, a silent storm of confusion, grief, and betrayal. For the first time, she couldn't ignore it. And as those doubts grew, she reached out to Delilah and Jesse, the sisters she had never truly known, ready to uncover the truth together. In late-night phone calls, her voice trembling with emotion, Chance pleaded, "We need to be there for Dad, but also to understand what really happened." She never mentioned the video. She never repeated Justin's stories. Yet the sincerity in her voice was enough to sway her sisters. Delilah and Jesse, hesitant at first, agreed to attend the trial, believing their presence would be a show of love and support for their father. What they didn't know was that Chance, nudged gently by Justin, had stepped into something far bigger. A plan was already in motion. Whether Justin's goal was justice, revenge, or power remained a mystery. But one thing was clear, he wasn't just a passive observer. Behind the scenes, whispers pointed to Justin as the shadowy figure who arranged for the damning 2018 White Party archive to land in the hands of Cassie Ventura's attorney, Samantha Klein. The clip, showing Kim Porter in a disturbingly vulnerable state, wasn't stumbled upon. According to confidential sources, Justin activated a trusted network to unearth and deliver the footage, knowing it could change everything. But he moved carefully. Diddy's circle was tight, full of loyalists who would do anything to protect him. If Justin was behind the video leak, he took every step to shield himself, and the ones he believed deserved protection. Rumors even suggest that Justin quietly arranged private security for Cassie and her husband, Alex Fine, as a precaution. "She's the only one who can speak the truth," he texted a friend using an encrypted app. His words were cold, focused, chilling in their certainty. Inside the courtroom, the pressure was suffocating. Cassie took the stand, her voice low but unwavering. "He wanted me to be his entirely," she said, locking eyes with the jury. Her words struck deep, recounting years of fear, threats, and control. In the front row, Chance, Delilah, and Jesse sat still, each one silently unraveling, torn between what they believed and what they were now beginning to see. Chance kept her expression composed, masking the storm inside her. She was torn, caught between the father she once adored and the disturbing truths Justin had revealed. Beside her, Delilah and Jesse sat unaware, still clinging to the image of a loving father. But everything shattered the moment the White Party archive lit up the courtroom screen. The footage opened with a lavish seaside mansion, neon lights pulsing through the night, and chaotic figures moving in the background. Then, Kim Porter appeared, the woman who raised them, the heart of their childhood. Delilah and Jesse froze, their breaths caught, and then sobbing they bolted from the courtroom, their cries slicing through the silence like knives. Diddy sprang to his feet, yelling to stop the video, fury burning in his eyes. But even as he shouted, his gaze drifted to Chance and Justin, and something in their stillness gave him pause. Chance stared back, her face set in stone. She didn't flinch. Her eyes locked onto her father's, demanding something, answers, maybe, or truth. Justin stood unmoved, arms crossed, his gaze like ice. As Diddy raged, a cold satisfaction stirred in Justin's chest. The empire his father built was cracking. Yet even in his triumph, a flicker of sorrow remained, a ghost of the love he once held for the man now unraveling before him. Outside the courtroom, the internet exploded. On X, the hashtags #KimPorterTruth and #DiddySecrets surged. Praise for Cassie poured in. She shattered the silence, one post read applauding her bravery. But Kim's appearance in the footage sparked new debate. Why had Chance and Justin, not Kim's own children, ensured Delilah and Jesse were present that day? Speculation ran wild. Some claimed Justin had manipulated Chance's emotional wounds to strike back at Diddy. Justin craves power, Chance seeks truth. One viral comment declared, "This wasn't just a trial anymore, it had become a reckoning."